All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, it's so funny, man. I just did a video a few weeks ago on Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the superstar power forward of the Milwaukee Bucks, who's the odds-on favorite, or at least should be the odds-on favorite, to win this season's NBA regular season MVP award. In that video, I basically stated that I believe that Giannis Antetokounmpo should reconsider many of his assertions about working out with the other NBA superstars and stars around the league, because it's been obvious to me that he needs to take a quantum leap in skill level and his overall skill set if he wants to be considered commensurate with many of the other superstars in the league, because as of right now, he's not a superstar. Now, if he were to win the NBA MVP award this year and then lead his team maybe to the third round of the playoffs this year, then maybe I will consider possibly putting him just outside of that superstar ranking. As I've always stated on my channel, there are only 4 superstars in the NBA, that being LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and also Kawhi Leonard. In order for you to be a superstar, in my view, you must have won a championship, and you also must have either won a regular season MVP award or a finals MVP award. A combination of those things. If you have not done that, you cannot be a superstar in my eyes, because whatever you're doing is not resulting in winning, or at least not enough winning. So that's why I cannot consider Kyrie Irving or Joel Embiid or Russell Westbrook or James Harden or Anthony Davis or Giannis in those ranks yet. Or right now also Paul George. Right now I would have Giannis as 1 and Paul George as 1A when it comes to this season's NBA regular season MVP rankings, with James Harden in 3rd place. But once again, there's a discernible difference between what Giannis and Paul George are doing and what James Harden is doing. James Harden is having a transcendent offensive season, but he's been given the greenest light in NBA history. And on top of that, he's not a good defender. Paul George and Giannis are playing top-notch defense. But just to get back to the point, when I did that video, and I believe that I entitled it some hyperbolic title, which to me addressed the sentiment. It got right to the point. Giannis Antetokounmpo is one of those players who believes that he has to hate his opponent. And it's based off of this false NBA narrative that players have only started to be quote-unquote friends in this modern generation of players, and that's not true. And in the video, I was addressing that I believe that if he was truly operating with a ruling class mentality, you always want to understand what better players are doing if they're going to open their doors to you to work out with them. You always want to understand how they're operating, because once again, if LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard are working out together and having runs together and they invite you, why should you not go? You have a chance to see how they train. You have a chance to see what their drills are to improve your game so that you can defeat them down the line. It doesn't have to be something where, hey, we go and we work out and then we go out to dinner together and then we go to the Masonic temple together. All this nonsense that many of these pretentious dudes were saying in my comment section, showing that they have little understanding of what it's going to take for Giannis to make that next step, to take that next step for someone who's had such little success in the playoffs. Now, right now, his team is looking like one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the NBA when it comes to having realistic expectations for winning a championship. So I give him that much credit. I'm hoping that his team, for his sake, I'm hoping that his team can follow through on their regular season success in the playoffs, because he does seem like a good dude. He seems like a very good leader. But once again, there's nothing wrong with trying to pick the brain of some of your contemporaries and figure out what they do. I had one guy say, well, Larry Bird didn't do that, blah, blah, blah. You have to understand something. Larry Bird came into the NBA a ready-made product. He was 23 when he came into the NBA. And from his first season, he made such a great impact that he turned a 29-win team into a 60-win team in his rookie year. And then in the next season, he won the championship. So there was no need for him to work out with anybody else, because he basically became the standard of the NBA from as soon as he entered the NBA. Giannis has not gotten out of the first round yet. So we'll see if his team flames out in the first or second round. What is he going to do? Is he going to try to figure out what else to do? I have brothers say, well, he works out with Kobe in the off season. The Mamba mentality stuff is okay. It's okay. But in this NBA, the style of play is very, very different. It's very different in this modern NBA. So I think that it behooves him to learn how those superstar type players play, because they will allow you into their camp. Steph Curry allowed Luka Doncic to train with him before this season. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, they all worked out together. They all had runs together before the season. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes cats can be a bit over-righteous. But anyway, NBA Hall of Famer, 6-time world champion, and basketball legend Scottie Pippen is going to show you that he agrees with me, because he understands that when you think on a macrocosmic level, you have to adjust to your environment. There are many ways to adjust to your environment without selling yourself out, compromising your principles, or what have you. And I think that to a degree, the Milwaukee Bucks front office has told Giannis that, and that's why they made him get on TV and talk about how he wants Anthony Davis there, because I don't think that that came from Giannis. That came from their front office, and they know that they need Giannis to be on board, because Milwaukee, as great a team as they are this season in the regular season, they have a max salary spot that will be available after this season, where they can actually sign a player who's extremely prominent. Now, we know Anthony Davis will not be available after this season, but still in all, as long as they start to grease the skids and get Giannis acclimated into what they're trying to do, that's how they're going to take their team to the next level. So anyway, once again, Scottie Pippen is going to attest to the same sentiment that I've put forth. They're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
It's first, I want to point out that the Milwaukee Bucks have a max salary slot this summer. Nobody talks about it because it's Milwaukee and whatever, and everything's like LA, New York, Clippers, Brooklyn, Dallas. If somebody wants to go play with Giannis, now granted they would have to let Chris Middleton go, but if a free agent wanted to go play with Giannis for one of the best coaches in the league, like Mike Budenholzer, where they have fantastic facilities, the Bucks will accept their meeting. And nobody's talking about the Bucks, but they have a max slot this summer. I just think it's Mark Lazary, whether he gets fined for this or not, it might be worth just reminding everybody that they're in the game.
I mean, Scottie, I don't think anybody... This seems so silly to me. It feels like players don't... What, they don't read? They don't have their own agency? They don't know? You don't think that whoever the KD or Kawhi or whoever they are going to know that the Bucks have a max slot?
Right, but sometimes Rachel Nichols, as Max Kellerman likes to say, if you don't toot your own horn, nobody's going to hear the sound. If you don't toot your own horn, nobody else is going to play the music for you. You could be good looking all day, but sometimes you have to approach that person that you're interested in to get them to notice you. You never know where people's minds are at. Right now, if you're Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, no, they might not know that Milwaukee has a max spot available, because nobody's thinking about moving to Milwaukee. Sometimes you have to make it known. A KD, a Kawhi, a Kyrie. We have a max spot here. We're a team that's really, on the cusp of doing something great, and we like to add you. If you don't say that, they might never notice, because once again, nobody wants to go to Milwaukee.
Mark Lazary to tell them?
You know what? I haven't seen the Bucks
Anthony Davis
ever.
Okay, but Anthony Davis doesn't need Mark Lazary to tell him that playing with Giannis and being in Milwaukee is attractive.
I'm not sure.
Players have...
How do you know that? How do you know what Anthony Davis needs? You never know what somebody needs. Right now, Anthony Davis has been focused on LA. So if you advertise your services more, you might get him to think on a different level.
Agency players
I'm not sure that that's 100% true.
You don't...
I know it's not 100% true. I agree with you, Brian Windhorst. But Rachel Nichols right now is feeling herself.
You don't think that Anthony Davis knows that
Anthony Davis knows because he put them on the list, but I'm not sure.
They're going to have to get Giannis to buy in that it's legal to recruit in this league. I know he don't want to do it.
Well,
yeah,
no,
clearly.
Thank you, Scottie Pippen. I hope a lot of you cats that was on their previous video who was talking all that shit about how, oh, I disagree with you on this one. How could you say that? Why would you say that Giannis should go work out with LeBron? They might try to do a wife swap. Like, just the most ridiculous, silly shit people were saying. That's why you got to be careful with the type of information that you put out there, because you have certain people, and I've said this in the past, different people have different levels of cognitive function. But I've always said I'm never going to water down the things that I say to make people comfortable. But still in all, it's just amazing how people take certain things that you say and they just go to the extreme with it. As I always state, nuance is one of the key indicators of a high intellect. People of high intellect can distinguish nuance. They can hear somebody say something and understand not to go to the nth degree with it, or not to spaz out over it. You can go work out with a LeBron James. You can go on a run with a Kevin Durant, a Kawhi Leonard, learn their moves, pick their brain about winning, see what they're going to answer when you ask them a certain question, how they're going to respond. Of course, they're going to be coy. They might even try to issue you disinformation. But what do you do if you have an intelligent mind? You take the meat and you leave the bones. You always separate the meat from the bones. That's the point. That's how you get to a higher level of comprehension. That's how you get to a high level of understanding in your field of endeavor. You have to speak to people who have more experience than you, who've achieved more than you. And hopefully you can adopt many of their practices onto yourself. But let's rewind this back and hear one more time what Scottie Pippen stated.
Draft. He wasn't. Anthony Davis knows because he put them on the list, but I'm not sure.
They're going to have to get Giannis to buy in that it's legal to recruit in this league. I know he don't want to do it.
Well, yeah, clearly on his draft he wasn't.
Now, why was Scottie saying that? He was saying that in response to what Giannis put out a few weeks ago about how he does not want to have to work with any of the other NBA stars. He doesn't want to work out with them in the off season. Scottie's making him understand basketball in this current environment, in this current climate, quote unquote, you are going to have to build certain bridges with other superstars. Because in order to win a championship in today's NBA, right now the Golden State Warriors have a starting lineup of 5 players who've all been in the All-Star game. So in order for you to win, I mean, it's great. You're 41-13 or whatever the record is of the Milwaukee Bucks. But they could go out in the first round if they catch the wrong opponent. I mean, really, if they catch the wrong opponent in the first round, they could go out because you never know how teams are going to adjust. And all of a sudden, they start to backpedal. They get worried. They get scared. That's how teams like that are. But I expect Milwaukee to do well in the playoffs because what they're doing in the regular season normally denotes a team that's going to be very successful in the playoffs. They're in the top 3 in both offense and defense. But still, Giannis is going to have to understand that part of leadership is diplomacy, shrewdness, perspicacity, keen focus. These type of things you're going to have to exhibit if you want to lead your team, especially in a time period where there's so much talent in the NBA.
He wasn't feeling bad, but he is the one who said, didn't he say, oh, you look good in a Bucks uniform when the two of them played or something like that? I don't.
Yes, he said that because he was prompted by his GM to say that. I even did a video about it because there's no doubt in my mind that the Milwaukee Bucks GM is the person who complained about LeBron James and the whole quote-unquote tampering issue.
Let's have more salary cap space than the Lakers.
I understand the theory behind the tampering rules. I just think that the application is just so scattershot that.
Well,
I don't know why we're
not just the application, but the enforcement.
That's what the application of the rules is. So anyway, our board.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. Of course, Rachel Nichols does not like that the NBA has tampering rules because she knows that if they eradicate their tampering rules, that will open up all of these teams to disrespect the contracts that they're able to sign with top-notch free agents. Now you can court prominent players even when they're in the midst of their contract, and she'll have more gossip for her show. That's why she's against it. But anyway, peace.